In the summer of 1958, Phoenix building inspector Raymond Hollis climbed into the attic of a tract house to investigate a complaint. His shirt pocket thermometer hit 164 degrees before he was fully inside. Soaked with sweat, he wrote a warning the builder ignored. The home's biggest cooling problem wasn't the living room or the air conditioner, it was the superheated attic above it. He was right. The solution he scribbled in the margin of that 1958 report cost less than $1 at the time, costs only a few dollars today, fits in the palm of your hand, and remains one of the most overlooked cooling upgrades in American homes. Not because it fails, but because it works so well that building scientists consider its effectiveness settled science. Once installed, it quietly does its job for years with little or no maintenance. There's no expensive service contract, no seasonal tune-up, and no repeat business. It's hard to build a profitable industry around a $4 part that solves a problem once and keeps working, which is exactly why so few homeowners ever hear about it. Let me show you what Raymond Hollis understood standing in that 164-degree attic, why your air conditioner has been losing a fight, it doesn't even know it's in, and why the most expensive month of your summer is being decided in a space above your head that you have probably not looked at in years. Start with the number that explains everything. On a 95-degree afternoon, the air in a typical unconditioned attic does not sit at 95. It sits between 130 and 160 degrees. The asphalt shingles on your roof are engineered to absorb solar radiation. That is literally what makes them black. And they re-radiate that heat downward into the dead air trapped beneath your roof deck. That superheated air has nowhere to go. It presses down against the only thing separating it from your bedroom, a few inches of insulation lying on your ceiling. And here is the part the insulation salesman will never tell you. Insulation does not stop heat. It slows it down. That is all it does. Insulation is a speed bump, not a wall. When you have a 160-degree furnace sitting on top of a 75-degree ceiling for 10 or 12 hours a day, that heat is going to find its way through, and every degree it pushes into your living space is a degree your air conditioner has to claw back out. Compressor cycling, meter spinning, dollars leaving your account in real time all afternoon and deep into the night because that attic stays hot for hours after the sun goes down. Your air conditioner is not cooling your house. It is fighting your attic, and it is losing. Now, the $4 device, it is not a fan, it is not a vent, it is not a gadget that needs an app. It is a thermostatically controlled attic switch, a snap disc thermal switch, the same kind of part that has lived inside ovens and water heaters for 60 years, that closes a circuit at a set temperature and opens it again when the air cools. A snap disc rated to close at 100 degrees and open at 80 costs between $3 and $5 at any electrical supply house or online in about 90 seconds of searching. By itself, it does nothing. Wired to the cheap gable fan you can already buy or already own, it becomes the brain that the entire system was missing. Because here is the failure that has quietly defeated attic ventilation for 40 years. People install a powered attic fan, wire it to run whenever the house has power, and it runs all day and all night, including at 3 in the morning when the attic is already cool, burning electricity for nothing, and in some badly sealed houses, actually pulling conditioned air up out of the living space through ceiling gaps, which means the fan is helping the air conditioner and stealing from it at the same time. The fan got the blame. The fan was never the problem. The problem was that nobody gave it a brain. The snap disc is the brain. It tells the fan one thing: only run when the attic is actually hot. Above 100 degrees, the circuit closes, The fan pulls the superheated air out through the gable and drags cooler outside air in through the soffit vents. The moment the attic drops back to 80, the circuit opens and the fan stops. No app, no thermostat subscription, no Wi-Fi, no firmware update that bricks it in 3 years. A bimetal disc that flexes when it gets hot. That is the entire technology. It has no failure mode that a 1962 dishwasher didn't already have solved. Now here is where the building scientists get interesting, and where the air conditioning industry gets very quiet. In 2013, a research team at the Florida Solar Energy Center, a state research institute, not a vendor, instrumented a set of identical houses in the Florida climate and measured what happened to attic temperature, ceiling heat flux, and air conditioner runtime when attic ventilation was actively managed versus left passive. The houses with controlled active ventilation saw peak attic temperatures fall by 30 to 50 degrees on the worst afternoons. The heat pressing down through the ceiling dropped accordingly, and the air conditioner, no longer fighting a furnace overhead, cycled less and pulled less power during exactly the peak rate hours when your utility charges you the most. They were not measuring a $4 part. They were measuring a principle. And the principle is brutally simple. A degree of heat you stop in the attic is a degree your air conditioner never has to remove from your living room. It is far cheaper to vent heat before it enters your house than to refrigerate it after it has arrived. Stopping the heat at the roofline is upstream of the entire problem. Your air conditioner works downstream, which is the most expensive place in the system to fight. You have made it this far, which means you already understand more about where your money actually goes every summer than the contractor who quoted your mother a $5,000 high-efficiency replacement unit last spring, because that replacement unit, however efficient, was still going to be installed downstream of a 160-degree attic, fighting the same losing fight, just slightly more efficiently. If you want the complete blueprint, the exact SnapDisk temperature ratings for every climate zone, the soffit to gable vent ratio math that determines whether the system breathes or chokes, the wiring diagram for the switch, the solar panel option that runs the whole thing off-grid for free, and 14 other low-cost attic and envelope fixes that quietly gut your cooling bill, all of it is laid out step by step in the manual linked in the description below this video. Every measurement, every part number, every diagram. You can have it tonight and have the switch wired in this Saturday. Now, let us talk about the objections. Because if you search attic fans online, you will find people who installed one and saw no change, or saw their bill go up. And I want to tell you exactly why. Because every one of those failures traces back to one of 3 mistakes. The first mistake is intake. A powered fan blowing air out of your attic is useless if no air can get in. If your soffit vents are blocked, and in most houses over 15 years old they are, packed solid with blown-in insulation that drifted over them, or painted shut, or never adequately sized to begin with, then the fan creates a vacuum, and the only place it can pull replacement air from is your living space, sucking your expensive conditioned air up through every ceiling light fixture and attic hatch gap. The fan runs, the attic barely cools, and your AC works harder. The fix costs almost nothing. You go into the attic, you find the soffit channels, you clear them, and you install baffles, little cardboard or foam chutes that keep insulation from drifting back over the intake. The rule the building scientists use is that you want at least as much intake vent area at the eaves as exhaust area at the gable. Breathe in as much as you breathe out. Most failed installations violate this, and the fan was strangled from day one. The second mistake is ignoring the ceiling plane, the invisible barrier that separates your air-conditioned living space from the scorching attic above. If that barrier is filled with gaps, even the best attic ventilation system cannot perform as intended. Unsealed recessed lights, attic hatches without weather stripping, openings around plumbing vents, electrical wiring, exhaust ducts, and ceiling fixtures all become pathways for air to move freely between the house and the attic. Cool air escapes upward while superheated attic air is drawn into the home, forcing your air conditioner to cool the same spaces over and over again. Many homeowners assume they need more ventilation, but the real problem is that the attic and the living space are no longer isolated from each other. Before installing an attic fan or improving roof ventilation, spend an afternoon sealing every opening you can find. Use caulk for small gaps, expanding foam where appropriate, weather strip the attic hatch, and seal penetrations around pipes and cables. These inexpensive materials can dramatically reduce unwanted air movement. Once the ceiling plane is airtight, the attic ventilation system can finally do its job by removing heat from the attic instead of pulling conditioned air out of the house. The order matters more than most people realize. Air seal first, ventilate second. Do it in that sequence, and the entire system works together efficiently. Do it the other way around, and you're simply trying to ventilate a house that's leaking from the inside out. The third mistake, and the most common, is running the fan with no brain. The exact problem the $4 switch exists to solve. A fan hardwired to run constantly, or wired to a simple wall switch a homeowner forgets to flip, either burns power around the clock or sits dead during the worst heat of the day. The snap disk removes human memory and human electric bills from the equation entirely. It runs the fan when the attic is hot and never when it isn't. The studies that showed real savings all had controlled ventilation. The internet complaints almost all had uncontrolled fans. The technology works. The failures are installation failures, not design failures. There is another objection worth answering honestly, which is whether this works everywhere. And the honest answer is that it works everywhere, but it does different jobs in different climates. In the dry, brutal heat of Phoenix, Las Vegas, and the high desert, this is close to a miracle. The outside air the fan pulls in is hot, but the attic is far hotter, so the exchange is dramatic and the relief is immediate. In the humid southeast, Houston, Atlanta, the Gulf, there is a real trade-off to respect. You are pulling humid outside air into the attic, and if your ceiling plane is not well sealed, you can pull moisture toward your insulation. The fix is the same air sealing you should be doing anyway, and in the most humid climates, the building scientists will tell you that a radiant barrier stapled to the underside of the rafters, a sheet of reflective foil that bounces the roof's radiant heat back up instead of letting it load the attic air, often outperforms ventilation alone. The two work together. In the north, where you fight ice dams in winter as much as heat in summer, the same controlled ventilation that cools your attic in July keeps the roof deck cold, and even in January, which is the single best defense against the ice dams that pry your shingles loose and leak into your walls. One system, two seasons, same physics. Now, I want to address the question that this whole video is really about, which is why this is not already standard in every house, and the answer is the same depressing answer that explains most of what is wrong with the modern home. There is no recurring revenue in a $4 switch. Nobody sends a technician to inspect a bimetal disc twice a year. There is no filter to replace, no refrigerant to recharge, no service contract, no warranty upsell, no app subscription. From the perspective of the cooling industry, a working attic is a problem, because a house that doesn't overheat is a house that doesn't need a bigger compressor, an extra return, a mini split in the back bedroom, or any of the high-margin equipment that gets sold to treat a symptom whose cause is sitting 40 feet overhead, untouched, unmeasured, and unmentioned in the quote. Nobody is hiding this in a vault. It is simply never the thing on the invoice because there is no invoice for it. So let me give you the actual build, start to finish, because the parts cost less than a tank of gas and the work fits in one Saturday. Friday evening, you order or pick up your parts. You need a snap disc thermal switch. Get one rated to close around 100 degrees and open around 80. Often sold specifically as an attic fan thermostat, $3 to $8. You need a gable-mounted attic fan if you don't already have one, and a basic one runs $60 to $90, though if you already own any attic fan, the switch alone transforms it. You need a roll of foam weather strip for the attic hatch, a tube of fire-rated caulk, a couple of insulation baffles for the soffits, and some wire nuts and lamp cord. Total for the controls and ceiling materials, if you already have a fan, is under $20. The switch itself, the device that does the actual thinking, is the $4. Saturday morning is the best time to work in the attic, before the sun turns it into an oven. Start with the unglamorous jobs that have the biggest impact. Seal the ceiling plane by weather stripping the attic hatch, caulking gaps around plumbing pipes, electrical penetrations, and duct openings, and sealing around recessed light fixtures that are rated to be safely enclosed. Every small air leak allows conditioned air to escape into the attic while drawing hot outside air into the living space below, forcing your air conditioner to work harder than necessary. Once the ceiling is sealed, move to the roof's intake vents. Clear every soffit vent you can reach of insulation, dust, bird nests, or debris that blocks airflow. Install or reposition insulation baffles so insulation can never slide back over the openings again. These simple channels ensure fresh outside air can continuously enter beneath the roof deck. Many homeowners focus only on adding attic exhaust fans or roof vents, but without a clear path for cool air to enter, those systems cannot perform properly. Air must flow in before it can flow out. This intake side of attic ventilation is the part most people ignore, yet it's the foundation of the entire system. Get it right, and everything else works better. Skip it, and even the most expensive ventilation upgrades will struggle to keep your attic cool. Saturday afternoon, you mount the snap disc. It goes high in the attic, near the peak where the hottest air collects, clipped or screwed to a rafter, well away from the fan's own airflow so it reads the attic and not its own breeze. You wire it in line between the fan and its power. The disc simply interrupts one leg of the circuit, closing when hot, opening when cool. If you want the off-grid version, you skip the house wiring entirely and run the fan and switch off a small solar panel mounted on the sunny side of the roof, which means the system draws the most power at the exact moment the sun is driving the most heat and costs you nothing to run, ever. Saturday evening, you test it the simple way. You point a cheap infrared thermometer at the attic air or watch the fan, and you confirm it kicks on when the attic is baking and clicks off when it cools in the evening. That click is the sound of a machine refusing to waste your money. The first afternoon you stand in your living room on a 98-degree day and feel your air conditioner cycle off and stay off, because the heat that used to pour down through your ceiling all afternoon is being thrown back out of the gable before it ever reaches you. You will understand what Raymond Hollis understood in that 164-degree Phoenix attic in 1958. The cooling problem was never in the living room. It was 40 feet above it the whole time, and the device that fixes it costs less than a sandwich. The infrastructure of an expensive summer is often built on a decision most homeowners never realize is being made for them. Instead of reducing the heat entering the house, they're sold larger air conditioners and more cooling capacity to battle heat that's already flooded the attic. That approach treats the symptom instead of the source. The alternative isn't a sacrifice, a trendy gadget, or an expensive renovation. It's a simple bimetal temperature switch, a few dollars in materials, and an afternoon spent in the attic solving the problem where it begins. By removing excess heat before it spreads into the living space, your air conditioner works less, your energy bills drop, and your home stays more comfortable. It's almost always cheaper to stop heat at the roof than to pay every summer trying to remove it after it's already inside. So before you close this video, do one thing for me. The next hot afternoon, go put your hand flat against your ceiling in an upstairs room. Feel the warmth coming through it. That warmth is your money. That is the heat your air conditioner is about to spend all evening removing, that a $4 switch could have stopped before it ever arrived. The blueprint with every part number and every wiring diagram is waiting in the description below. Go build it, and the next time a heat wave settles over your block and everyone's compressor is screaming all night, yours will be the house that goes quiet. Found something surprising today? Hit subscribe and stay tuned for more.